right, so with the unpaid balance method, the idea here is we are going to be calculating interest based on the unpaid balance from a credit card statement. So yesterday we saw the whole previous balance and all that kind of stuff. So let's go ahead and just take a look here. And we've got our lesson objective today. We're going to be able to compute the finance charge, like I mentioned, using what's called the unpaid balance method. It's how much is left over that wasn't paid that probably should have been paid. So advantages of online shopping, man, this is even more valid today, isn't it? Ken Harper likes to shop online. He recently downloaded a new album and purchased a cell phone that he found at a good price on the internet. He used his credit card to pay for his purchases. So so much shopping is done online, even more since this book was written. So things have just become even more convenient, even more accessible in terms of how quickly things can ship and all that good stuff. So determining the finance charge. So I mentioned yesterday when we were dealing with credit card account statements that if you don't pay off your credit card in full every month, you will be charged interest because it's a 30-day loan. If you pay off that loan within the 30 days, you don't have to pay any interest on it. You just pay back what you borrowed when you swiped your card at wherever you did. And as long as you pay back that money, within 30 days, there's no interest, and most of the time you can actually get some money back. However, if you don't pay it on time, you will be charged interest. And so a credit card company or a charge account at a store may utilize the unpaid balance method to compute finance charges. This method computes the finance charge based on the portion of the previous balance you have not paid. So our formula is actually like a three-part formula. So there's three things that we're going to be doing. We are going to be calculating the unpaid balance. That is one of them. And the unpaid balance is based on the portion of the previous balance you haven't paid. So you have to actually calculate that before you can figure out what the finance charge is. And to calculate the portion that was unpaid is right here. It is the unpaid balance is equal to the previous balance minus the sum of the payments and the credits. From there, you will calculate your finance charge. So in order to get the amount of money that you're going to be paying in interest, the finance charge is essentially just how much you have to pay in interest on the unpaid balance. So the finance charge, or the interest that you have to pay, is equal to the unpaid balance, which you just calculated here, multiplied by the periodic rate. Periodic rate is simply the percent that you have to pay. It's the interest rate percent that you have to pay. And then from those two calculations, you can then figure out your new balance, which is exactly kind of what we did yesterday. We calculated the new balance. And the new balance right here, slightly different formula than what we used yesterday, but very similar. Your new balance is equal to the unpaid balance, which you calculated it up here, plus the finance charge, which you calculated right here, plus any new purchases, which are just added in. So three different small formulas that we have to use. And it'll kind of walk us through this as well. Step one will be the unpaid balance in yellow. Step two, finance charge, that's red. Step three, new balance, blue. So that's what we're looking at today. Like I said, it's a little bit more work than what we did yesterday, but as long as you remain like detail oriented with this, you will be able to get this stuff figured out without really a whole lot of issues. So I'm actually going to be using my trusty answer key on this one as well, just to make sure that I'm doing the things that I need to be doing correctly for this. So as we go through here, we're going to be solving for three things. We're going to be calculating the unpaid balance, the finance charge, and the new balance of this particular problem. So I'm going to read through this problem and we'll go through that one. And I think there's a couple more on the back that we'll do after that. Yeah, about 3 problems on the back as well. So it shouldn't be a really long day worth of notes. We should be able to get through this with a little bit of time to spare. All right. So here we go. It says, see figure 4.2, or sorry, not 4.2, figure 7.2 for the summary portion of Lucille Sherman's charge account statement. I'm going to zoom in a little bit as well because it looks like it might be a little bit small on your screens. There it is. She had a previous balance. So this is 7.2 here to figure out the billing information. She had a previous balance of $132.40. She made a $40 payment and she purchased an item for $79.55. The monthly finance charge is computed at 1.5% of the unpaid balance. Determine A, the unpaid balance, B, the finance charge, and C, the new balance. So 3 different things have to be done in order to get this to work properly. So let's go ahead and start working through it. So we have our billing date of December 16th. And it looks like there was a payment made previously right there of $40. So those are your payments and credits right here. This number matches with that one. Any payments and credits, those are payments and credits combined, get subtracted from the previous balance in order to get to the unpaid balance. So that means we're going to have calculations of $132.40, the previous balance, minus, so previous balance minus the payments and credits. So $132.40 minus $40. And my calculator has fallen, so let me go grab that real quick. All right. So unpaid balance equals $132.40 minus $40. So we end up with $92.40. That is our unpaid balance. I'll just go ahead and highlight this in yellow, just as a reminder to, match it up with the one that I made up in yellow up here. So unpaid balance is just a subtraction problem. So that means that the amount that wasn't paid for, that was left over on the credit card, that was not paid on time, is $92.40. So she ends up being charged a finance charge computed at 1.5% of the unpaid balance. Now, this is a periodic rate. So this means that this is the percentage that we're going to be multiplying by in that month in order to figure out how much she's going to have to pay in finance charge, or as essentially interest, or a late fee, I guess, would be kind of a way of saying that. If you don't pay it in on time, you end up being charged something. So the unpaid balance is $92.40. And the periodic rate was 1.5%, which means we're going to be multiplying by 0.015. Always use our percentages as decimals in order to make this work. And so 92.40 times 0.015 gives us a finance charge of $1.39. It's 1.386, but we're always going to round it to the nearest cent. So it's $1.39. All right, so we've done our first 2 steps. Now we have to calculate the new balance. So A, right here, unpaid balance, we said was 92.40. Finance charge was $1.39. There were new purchases of $79.55. So our new balance is equal to the unpaid, 92.40, plus the finance charge, $139, plus new purchases of $79.55. So we got to add all those together. So the new balance is $173.34. So three separate calculations for the unpaid balance method that we're using today. So 173.34. Each of the calculations by themselves, not very complicated. It's just a matter, like I said, of staying really detail oriented with this. So now $1.39 doesn't seem like that much, but if you're always carrying an unpaid balance, that means you're always paying interest, which is not something that you have to do. And it's not a large balance that's being carried forward, but sometimes people rack up a lot of credit card debt because if this doesn't get paid down, if this fee doesn't get paid down, or that finance charge, the finance charge can actually gain interest as well. Back in the last chapter, we talked about compounding interest. When you have your own bank account, your interest earns interest, which is a good thing. The opposite can happen when you're talking about things that are unpaid for finance charges. And so if you're having to pay interest, that interest can actually gain interest in a bad way, meaning the interest that you haven't paid can gain its own interest on top of that, which means you have to pay even more. So it works in your favor when you're talking about like a savings account or a retirement account, but it certainly works against you if you're paying things late. So let's take a look at these next two right here. We're going to complete these problems 1 and 2. We're going to calculate the unpaid balance, the finance charge, and the new balance, and we'll go ahead and just drop these in right here. Periodic rate here, 1.5%. That'll be an important thing to note as well. All right, so off to the side here, I'm just going to have to use this space over here because there's not a lot of room underneath it. So with problem number 1, so 1A, we need the unpaid balance. And actually, we're just given the payments and credits here. So unpaid balance is equal to the previous balance minus the payments and credits. 600 minus 100, we know that's 500. So A, 500, that's fine. So I'll just say 600 minus 100 equals 500 for the unpaid balance. For 1B, we have to take our unpaid balance and it gets multiplied. Here's our formula right here, unpaid balance times the periodic rate to get the finance charge. So 1B, finance charge equals the unpaid balance, 500, multiplied by the periodic rate, same as the first problem, 0.015. And we're looking at $7.50 for the finance charge on that one. So $7.50. And then 1C is just the new balance, and the new balance is equal to these three added together, the unpaid balance plus the finance charge plus new purchases. So 500 plus 750 plus $70 of new purchases. So we're looking at $577.50 for the new balance. All right. So I'd like a little bit of participation on this next one. Problem number 2 right here. We have a previous balance of $220, and we have payments and credits totaling $150. So how much money is going to be accruing a finance charge? What is the unpaid balance for number 2? And it just shows you right here that all you have to do is subtract. So what is the unpaid balance for 2A? $70. Good. So we're talking about $70 earning interest. All right. So that's going to be 2A, 220 minus 150. So unpaid balance 220 minus 150 equals 70. All right. 2B, we need finance charge. So the finance charge then, somebody calculate that one for me. What will the finance charge be? So we have a $70 unpaid balance, and we're talking about a 1.5% periodic rate, which is 0.015. So this should be a pretty minimal finance charge. It'll actually be, I think, move the decimal 1 to the left. Yeah, $5. Perfect. So we got 70 times 0.015. 1.5% finance charge is $1.05. So that's actually a really, really minimal finance charge on that one. No, that's all right, no worries. And then for 2C, the new balance, what do we end up with? So that's just A and B plus the new purchases, those 3 added together. What do we end up with? We're actually just going to go ahead and add those 3 together. 70, 1.05, and 95. Oh, no worries. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit more. I know it's really small when it's zoomed out, but then when I zoom in, it's like maybe a little bit too much. Let's see if I can get in between there a little bit. There we go. That's better. A little variation there. No problem. I know what it's like to not have glasses or contacts in, for sure. It's annoying. 166.05. There we go. Perfect. So the new balance, $166.05. So as long as this entire balance is paid in full by the next month, then they're not going to have any additional finance charges moving forward. All right, we've got a couple more examples that we're going to take a look at here. So the second type of problem that we have today is an algebra type of problem. And so this says that Roy Nelson's charge account uses the unpaid balance method to compute the finance charge at a monthly periodic rate of 1.75%. So I'm just going to make a note here, periodic rate 1.75%, but as a decimal, I'm going to put this in parentheses, 0.0175. So it's going to be important that we use all of these decimal places when calculating what we're working on. During the month, he charged $156.89, made a $200 payment, and had a $9.90 finance charge. Find A, his unpaid balance, his previous balance, and his new balance. Now, we can see here that it says step 1, let A equal Roy Nelson's unpaid balance. So what it's suggesting here is that to calculate the unpaid balance, we're actually going to use the finance charge equation first. And that's because we don't know what the unpaid balance is, and we do know what the periodic rate is, and we do know what the periodic rate is, and we do know what the finance charge is. So because we know that 2 of the 3 parts of the finance charge equation, we can use algebra to figure out the unpaid balance from that. What we don't have is we don't have the previous balance. So we can't use the unpaid balance equation to start off with on this one because we don't have the previous balance and we don't have the unpaid balance. So we're missing 2 things out of this equation here, which is why we can't start with this one. We're only missing 1 part of this equation here. So it's saying to use A, variable A, use that as the unpaid balance. All right, so we know the finance charge is $9.90. So I'm going to write $9.90 right here, equals the unpaid balance A times the periodic rate of 1.75% or 0.0175. Now, because we usually go with variables after numbers, I'm just going to switch these 2 around because the order of multiplication doesn't actually matter. So we're going to go with 0.0175A. So to figure out the unpaid balance, because the finance charge is based on the unpaid balance, we're just going to divide to get A by itself. So we're going to divide by 0.0175, cancel there, divide by 0.0175 over here. And so A, the unpaid balance, it's going to be a pretty big number. Does anybody think they know what it is? 990 divided by 0.0175. Anybody think they know it? $565.71. Perfect. So $565.71. Awesome. So the unpaid balance is $565.71. Now, for this next problem, it says we also have to calculate the previous balance. So we're going with previous balance here. It's saying to use B for that. And I think they're using A, B, and C because A was the unpaid balance. So it's just parts A, B, and C of the problem. So they're saying use A for that, use B for previous balance. All right, so what we're suggesting here is that to calculate the previous balance, this is the only thing we don't know because now we have the unpaid balance. It's $565.71. And that's going to be equal to the previous balance B minus payments and credits. Let's see, I don't see any credits, but I do see a $200 payment. So payments and credits are $200. So minus 200. And so this one's going to be actually really simple because all we have to do here is add 200 in order to get this one to work. So those will cancel out there. And so B, the previous balance, is going to be $765.71. All right, now the last part here is to calculate C, the new balance. And so The new balance, we're just going to be able to use the regular formula for this one, it looks like, because the new balance is equal to, and it also doesn't tell us to use a variable, so it's suggesting that there's no algebra on this one. It's the unpaid balance, $565.71, plus any finance charges, which it told us up here was $9.90, so plus $9.90, plus the new purchases, which was actually in the regular problem at the beginning as well. So during the month, he charged $156.89. Those are the new purchases, $156.89. So plus $156.89. So the previous balance does not factor in here because we've already taken care of all of that to make this work. So NB, new balance, $565.71, plus the $9.90 finance charge, plus new purchases of $156.89, gives us a new balance of $732.50. $732.50. And that's how we're going to be able to deal with problems like these. So problems 3 and 4 down here are going to be really similar to that. So I'm going to do, let's see, we'll do problem 3 off to the side here, and then 4 will get done over on this side. So I'll just kind of split things in half. So 3 will be on the left, 4 will be on the right. All right, here we go. Last couple of problems here. So number 3, we've got Omar Tariq has a credit card that uses the unpaid balance method to compute the finance charge. His monthly periodic rate is 2.4%. And I'm just going to go ahead and say, all right, I know that means 0.024. During this past billing cycle, he charged a total of $256.28. So that's the new purchases. He made payments totaling $350. And if he had a finance charge of $18.28, find the unpaid balance, previous balance, and the new balance. So this is going to work out exactly like what we did on the previous problem. So we're basically just going to be setting up A, B, and C, just like we did on this problem right here. So we're first going to say, all right, so here's A, so number 3. A, we're going to use the finance charge equation here. So we're going to say that the finance charge is equal to the unpaid balance minus the periodic rate. All right, now we know that the finance charge, or not minus, multiplied by the periodic rate. We know that the finance charge is $18.28. We don't know what the unpaid balance is. That's going to be our variable, so we can just call that A again. And the periodic rate this time is 2.4% or 0.024. So 0.024 multiplied by A. So divide by 0.024. So we end up with $761.67. So unpaid balance, $761.67. For part B, we are going to calculate the previous balance. So part B, previous balance. And we're going to use the unpaid balance equation to do that. So unpaid balance is equal to previous balance minus payments plus, so minus the payments and the credits. But payments and credits was just payments on this one. It was payments, made payments totaling $350. So that's the number we're going to put in right here. We don't know the previous balance. That's our variable. We'll call that B. We have the unpaid balance here because that's what we calculated in part A. So we get 761.67 is equal to the previous balance, just call that B, minus the payments, 350. So to solve for the previous balance, we're just going to add 350 bucks to both of those. We're looking at $1,111.67. So previous balance is $1,111.67. And then the last part we need to figure out here is the new balance. And again, for C, the new balance, we're not going to do any kind of algebra on this one. We can just use the new balance equation, which is equal to the unpaid balance plus the finance charge plus new purchases. So new balance is going to equal unpaid balance of $761.67 plus the finance charge of $18.28 plus new purchases, which are up here, $256.28. All right. $1,036.23. All right. So there's problem number 3. The last one, number 4, Okay, we better? Is this good? Check two. Yeah, we're back. All right, cool. Sorry about that. My microphone's been doing weird things the last couple of days. Okay, so we've got these three things here. We need to use our three formulas to figure out which formula or which formulas we actually have to use to solve for what we're trying to do. We're trying to figure out the periodic rate, and the periodic rate is in the formula that calculates the finance charge. So we're trying to figure out this right here. And in order to figure out what the periodic rate is, that means we need both the finance charge and the unpaid balance. Well, if we look down here, we have the finance charge. We don't have the unpaid balance. So we have to get the unpaid balance before we can figure out what the periodic rate is. So in order to get the unpaid balance, we need to use the unpaid balance formula, which says we need the previous balance minus all the payments and credits. We have both of those things. We have the previous balance and we have payments and credits right here, $100. So step one here is going to be finding the unpaid balance. Once we have that, we can then use the unpaid balance with the finance charge to find the periodic rate. So it's kind of working backwards and then piecing things together with our three formulas. So we're not actually going to have to use the new balance formula at all on this one. That one's not actually going to be necessary. So the unpaid balance is equal to the previous balance, which we know is 284.86, minus all the payments, which is $100. So not bad. 184.86 for the unpaid balance. So from there, we can now figure out what the periodic rate is. So step two, find the periodic rate. And the periodic rate here, we're going to use the formula that uses the periodic rate. Only one of the formulas does. It was this first one. It was the finance charge formula. So it's finance charge is equal to unpaid balance times periodic rate. So finance charge equals unpaid balance multiplied by the periodic rate. We know that the finance charge is $3.51. So we're going to plug that in here. And that is equal to the unpaid balance, which we have right here, 184.86, multiplied by the periodic rate, which we're calling x. So we are solving for x, and it tells us to the nearest 100th percent. So that's going to be important for the last bit of this problem here. But let's go ahead and solve for x first. So divide by 184.86. Okay. So if we're going to 100th of a percent, that means we're going to 4 decimal places. And the reason why we know that has to do kind of with problem example 2 up here. 100th of a percent, 1.75, that's 100th of a percent there. And if you look at how many decimal places that is, that's 4 decimal places. So 100th of a percent is 4 decimal places. So there it is. If we're going to 4 decimal places, 0.0189, but then the number after that's an 8. So this 8 rounds this 9 up 1, which actually rounds that 8 up 1 to a 9. So it's going to be 0.0190. And so to convert this back into a percentage, we're going to switch this, we're going to move our decimal 2 places to the right, which ends up as the periodic rate is equal to 1.90%. So that would be to the nearest 100th of a percent. Okay. That is it for the notes for the day. Let's go ahead and have a quick look at the assignment. And we'll get out of here. Okay, so these questions, all these questions that we have today, they're going to be very similar to what we just did. So the table up top here, it's just like those first types of questions that we did. I went ahead and made A, B, C boxes up for each of these just to give you a little more room to work. So for 5, 6, and 7, unpaid balance for A, finance charge for B, new balance for C. 8 through 12, you're going to calculate the new balance. Some of these have more parts than others, though. So for number 8, it gives you all the information you need. So calculate the new balance here from that. In order to get the new balance, though, you have to go through all three of those little formulas to work through that for number 8 and for number 9. Number 10 just kind of lays it out a little bit more for you to actually get those in there. So 10A, unpaid balance, 10B, finance charge, 10C, new balance. Same thing with 11, A, B, and C. 12 is a little different. Gives you a little bit more information on there. He had payments, so there's 2 payments and a credit. So those 3 numbers will be subtracted. And he also made purchases here, so those will be added together. So there's a little bit more information to work with on number 12, but it's the same process. And then number 11, or sorry, not number 11, the last one, number 13, A, B, and C. This one is going to be very similar to problem 3 that we just did a few minutes ago. Not the one that we just did, number 4, because it gives you the periodic rate. So that's it for today. We will pick back up tomorrow, and then we'll probably go over 7.3 tomorrow, but then Thursday we'll go ahead and take a day, and I'll just pause for a day. We can just go over questions that you might have from any of the first 3 assignments that you were given for this unit. So like I said, that's it for today. I'll see you all right back here tomorrow at 1:32. Have a great day. Bye.